Howdy everyone, Midway Piper here. I hope all is going well. Today is going to be another edition of Pipes and Books. So let's go ahead and do the housekeeping before we get started. Today I have my Chris Harriet apple. Really cool yellow and black stem. This is the stem match I got at the same time as that little squat Rhodesian and its lovely rustication. Very craggy. And in it didn't stay lit. Can you guess what it is? Any guesses? Black Irish Twist. You know, if this stuff wasn't so good, I probably wouldn't keep going back to it as often. No, it's I just keep forgetting to leave it out to dry out a little bit. So what I did, I took it all out. It's all drying for a little bit. I found some of the stringiest stuff I had, and I lightly packed the bowl. And that seems to be helping a bit, at least until the rest of it dries out. So yeah, today is going to be a long day. I have an overnight at work tonight, so I'll be going in a couple hours, and I'll be there until 8:30 tomorrow morning, and then come home and take my son right to his gym class straight after that, and then hopefully relax a little bit after that. Try to stay awake for the day. We'll see. And then an early morning shift on Sunday. So not a huge reading week this week. It's not that I'm not really into the books that I was reading or am reading still. I spent a good amount of time that I would normally be listening to audiobooks. I spent a lot of that watching YouTube videos on two various things. The first of which was dividend investing. Originally, that was my plan with my investment portfolios, was dividend investing. And then I fell for the when a lot of the stocks stock market really started to drop. I know that's a safer place to be, is in those dividend stocks, but some of the stocks that I was eyeballing were really plummeting, and it seemed like a good buy-in point. So instead, I bought into some of those, and I've made pretty good money on them at the moment. But I want to start getting back on track with investment dividends. So what I think I'm going to do is next week I'm going to go visit my financial planner. We have 2 Roth IRAs, and I'm going to set up one Roth IRA with like a S&P fund, and then the other one is going to be a dividend fund, and I'm going to make sure that they're funded equally, and I'm just going to let them ride and see see how those two methods compete with each other a bit. So that'll be kind of cool and fun. So I've been finding the stocks that I want to put in my dividend investment portfolio. So made progress on that. Millennial Codger, hopefully, if we all have some Black Irish Twist, will exercise the Cobb demons, shall we say. Anyways, the other videos that I've been watching on YouTube, it's actually a channel. I'll leave a link to it down below. It's a rabbi that I've been watching to get more details. Like I said, you guys know the story. I was raised Jewish, and just was really kind of turned off by the whole Reform Judaism thing. And there are a lot of things I didn't quite understand. I've just sort of dismissed them. And a lot of his talks really sort of shed some light on some of the things that I didn't agree with necessarily. So I found those to be very interesting, and most of his lectures are north of an hour and a half. And I find them fantastic to listen to. So I've been spending a lot of time, my audiobook time, instead listening to a lot of his talks. So I'll leave a channel down below, or link to the channel down below for that. So I guess that leads into books I finished this week. And there's only 2 of them. I finished one audiobook and I finished one physical read. So the physical read you guys knew I was reading this one. Why Be Jewish? So I did finish this book. Nothing new or novel out of this. I picked this up at a used library sale. It was like $1. So I picked that up. And I finished listening to an audiobook. I don't have a physical copy of it. It is Endurance by Scott Kelly, the astronaut, now a senator of Arizona. It was a pretty good read. I enjoyed most of it. The only thing that was kind of off-putting on the book is it jumps around time-wise a lot. So instead of just going from his sort of childhood to being an astronaut, and through his missions, Navy pilot, and into being an astronaut, it jumps around a lot. So it's like he's an astronaut, then it's back to his youth, and then astronaut mission, and then time in the Navy, and then astronaut mission, and then becoming an astronaut, and then early missions. It was a little bit too much jumping for me. Sometimes I had a hard time figuring out, especially when it gets to early missions to main mission, big long mission. It got a little bit confusing at times. Maybe physically reading the book, it would have been a little bit more clear, but nonetheless, it was a pretty good book. It was read by him as well, so narrated by him. It was a pretty good read. So that was that. Those are the only 2 books I read and finished this week. So what am I currently reading? I'll show you the physical reads real quick after I relight my pipe. Okay. So continuing with the trend of some of the Jewish books that I picked up. I started the Royal Table, an outline of the Jewish dietary laws. Learn a little bit more about the kosher laws. I'm not too far into it. This is a sit-down physical read. Also, this book is probably too old to even be an audible book, but who knows? Certainly not mainstream enough to probably be on there. So there's that. And then the other physical read I'm still working my way through is The Bishop's Villa. I showed you guys this one on, I think, a couple of the videos. This is part of the Europa editions. Thanks again to Johnny Keene for turning me on to these. I'm not super far in that one either. This is a sit-down physical read as well. But if you didn't see my previous videos on this book, and you see this one, it's an Italian village, and the Nazis have moved in, and they have taken up residence. They've teamed up with the bishop, and they're turning his home into essentially a bit of a slave encampment. I'm not going to call it a yeah, I guess we'll just call it a slave encampment for all the groups that the Nazis did not like. So we follow our main character is sort of his best friend slash love interest. Her son was killed by these Nazi troops, and she leaves to join a resistance group, and he's not quite on board with that initially, and now he's starting to get involved with the resistance. So again, not very far into the book, but pretty good read. Pretty good read so far. Again, all these Europa books, Europa editions. Otherwise, I would probably never pick any of these up. A lot of these are translations from foreign authors. But I haven't been disappointed. This is, I think, the fourth Europa edition book I've read in the last couple of months, and it's I haven't been disappointed with any of them so far. So, yeah, Bishop's Villa. Europa editions, they've got a pretty good website, and you can find all the stuff that they offer on their website. Now the audiobook, I'm not far into it. I actually just picked up a physical copy of it today because I collect his books. My Friends by Frederick Bachman. A Man Called Ove is one of his more popular works, but again, just a lot of really good, sort of feel-good kind of stories mostly. This one just came out, and so I'm excited to sort of jump into this one. Again, I just started this on audio, so I haven't really made much progress in it. And then there's a new Barnes & Noble that opened nearby. Initially, they used to be in a mall, and it's becoming a bigger city now, but it's on the outskirts. So the mall is downtown, and It was a giant 2-story Barnes & Noble, and I believe they've closed out of the mall, and they moved to a shopping center more on the outskirts of the city. And I used to go over there all the time. So they just opened this location a week or two ago. So I finally, this morning, since I don't have to be to work until later, I finally went over and checked it out. I heard the greatest words from my son this morning. I said, hey, I'm going to go over to that new Barnes & Noble. Do you want to go? And he said, he was watching my wife play a game on her iPad. And he goes, yeah, let's go. And he's like, you can finish the game on your own, Mom. I'm going to the bookstore with Daddy. And that was just music to my ears. So we got him, I got him another one of his Investigators comic books. Maybe I'll do a video on those and what we've been doing with those books in one of my next couple of videos. Making a great family bonding experience with those books. So the last one he doesn't have. So we picked that up. And then while I was there, I picked up two other books that came out recently that I wanted to get. So I picked up, it's called The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This is I guess you would qualify it as grimdark fantasy, if you're not familiar with that. It's grimdark is essentially fantasy books set in a really dark fantasy world where there isn't much hope. But Joe Abercrombie is a master of character work. I think I have just about everything he's written. Absolutely love his books. And so this is a new one. And it's a new series, I believe. I believe it's part of a new series that he's writing. So this just came out. And so I'm going to jump into this. Probably the next audiobook I do will probably be this one. Not a small book. So, but his stuff is really good. And there's some pretty cool artwork. Pretty cool artwork. So, I haven't been into fantasy or sci-fi in quite a while, so it's it would be interesting to dip back into that stuff and see how it goes, because I haven't had much patience for it for quite a while. The other two, well, the other one that I planned on getting, this came out not too long ago. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. Mark Twain by Ron Chernow. It's a biography, and it's a beast. It's just over 1,000 pages, plus all the acknowledgments, resources, and all that kind of stuff. So, a huge book. Ron Chernow writes a lot of history books, biographies. He wrote a biography on Grant, Alexander Hamilton. The book that the Hamilton play was sort of based off of. So, yeah, that's a big one. Great looking spine. That'll look good on a shelf. So I'll get into that eventually at some point. If you guys have followed these Pipes and Books videos for a little while, you know I've read a couple of Mark Twain books recently. I went to Mark Twain Middle School. Never super interested in his writings in the past. Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. I've read those in the last couple of months. They were pretty good. Certainly not rank up there as the top reads of the year, but it's a different time. It takes you back into a different time. So interested to see a little bit more about what the times that he grew up in. Because I'll tell you, reading some, if you go back and read some of those books, I'm surprised the man hasn't been canceled yet. Authors have been canceled for a lot less than that. And the final book I picked up is so I mentioned the Europa editions. I found out about from Johnny Keene. I'll link his channel again below. I wanted to, some of his previous videos, he was reading a book by an author, Andrei Platonov. And when I was at Barnes & Noble, they had a whole bunch of the New York Times best sellers, I think is the category they go in. Let's see. New York Review books. Classics. And I saw they had one of his books, The Foundation Pit. Pretty interesting cover there. So I figured I'd pick it up and see what this book is all about. I'll just read you the back of this one real quick. In Andrei Platonov's The Foundation Pit, a team of workers has been given the job of digging the foundation of an immense edifice, a palatial home for the perfect future that they are convinced is at hand. But the harder the team works, the deeper they dig, the more things go wrong, and it becomes clear that what is being dug is not a foundation, but an immense grave. The Foundation Pit is Platonov's most overtly political book, written in direct response to the staggering brutalities of Stalin's collectivization of Russian agriculture. It is also a literary masterpiece seeking to evoke unspeakable realities. Platonov deforms and transforms language and pages that echo both with the alienating doublespeak of power and the stark simplicity of prayer. This English translation is the first and only one to be based on the definitive edition published by Pushkin House in Moscow. It includes extensive notes and an appendix, several striking passages deleted by Platonov. So, sounded interesting. So I figured I'd pick it up. It's trying to rain again, and I have all my books outside, so I just want to make sure it's not actually going to rain. We'll start wrapping it up. That was the last of the books. So, one last thing I want to mention. Maybe. So I mentioned previously about this credit card debacle business. My credit card company is canceling their card services. Nothing I did. But they're canceling their card services on the 28th, which is now 5 days away. And 8 days ago, I applied for a new credit card. And they said, we'll let you know in 7 to 10 business days and through the mail. I've been waiting for that piece of mail to arrive, and it came today, and I felt the envelope and there was no card in it. So I opened it up and it said, we cannot give you this card because we need more information. Yeah. They had an email, they had my phone number, but they chose to send through snail mail a letter saying that they needed more information with a phone number to call. So I called them up as soon as I opened the letter, and she put me on hold, looked over the application, and said, so it looks like the only thing that there's any confusion on with the application is we have your name listed as Alex on the application. Is that what's on your driver's license? And I said, my driver's license has my name listed as Alexander. And they said, okay. So we just need to update that. And that's all. Now we'll put it through, and they'll let you know by email in 2 business days if you've been approved. Really? That's what you needed? You couldn't determine that Alex is short for Alexander? I had to wait 8 days to get a letter. They have my phone number. They have my email address. It's amazing. And I said, okay, cool, but now we're going into the weekend. And by the time the weekend's end, it's a holiday weekend nonetheless. So now I won't know and hear anything until Wednesday. I'll probably get an email. And I think Friday is when my card is no longer active. So I said, is there going to be a digital version of the card that I can have access to so I can start getting things changed over? And I said, no, probably not. No, I know I can put the card on my phone through Apple Pay. So there is, but I told him, I said, I need a card. If I get approved, I need that card. And they said, well, once you hear from them through email, reach out to them, and they could probably overnight you the card for an additional fee. It's really frustrating. So I found out about this card being canceled 2 weeks before it's been canceled. And then this shenanigans. Very frustrating. I have an Apple Card I can use temporarily, but I don't want to change everything over to the Apple Card for a couple of days and then have to go back and change everything over again to a new card, the one I actually want to be using. So very frustrating, very frustrating. But anyways, that's it. I will probably try to do a video tomorrow afternoon. If I'm awake. I might be a bit on the loopy side from lack of sleep. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.